Lakers obviously got Dallas coming up tomorrow. Big time game as well. Emotions going to be riding high. Luka gets a chance to go back to Dallas. I mean, it's going to be a kind of a cool game to be a part of. Either way, you're an NBA fan. You're going to be watching that game just because of some of the emotions for Luka going back to Dallas. The one thing that nobody really talks about is, what does AD think? Anthony Davis kept it brief. I'm going to read a tweet here from Mike Curtis. Again, Dallas Morning News. Anthony Davis kept it brief when asked about the emotions going into Wednesday's game against the Lakers. No emotions is what he said. By the way, if somebody says I have no emotions, then they have some emotions. I was trying to think about this. I'm like, how should Anthony Davis feel about the Lakers? How should he feel about the front office? How should he feel about the organization? When he says he has no feelings, he obviously has feelings. I was like that. So how do you feel about this? I feel nothing about it. Okay. So you probably feel something about it. Yeah, as much as that game is going to be keyed in on Luka tomorrow, I think there's a little bit of, all right, well, what does that game mean for Anthony Davis? It should mean something to AD. It should. By the way, AD can kind of screw up part of this Lakers game plan that we're talking about here. I'll sit everybody against the Oklahoma City Thunder. You got the Mavs coming up tomorrow. Go get that W against the Mavs. The problem with Dallas, I just don't think they're good enough. I just don't think they're good enough. Talent-wise, I just don't think they're good enough. Without Kyrie Irving, that's just a colossal failure. They're just, or injury. They're just trying to get some of their guys back. Lively, Gafford, a couple of other guys that were, I think Caleb Martin at one point was out, so now he's back in the lineup. The problem with them, they just don't have enough talent. But that doesn't mean AD can't go off for 35 tomorrow with 15 rebounds and 4 blocked shots and hand an L to the Lakers and kind of keep them in this position of, you still haven't locked up anything. You still haven't locked up that number 3 seed. It's going to be interesting tomorrow because I think we all want to look at it from Luka Doncic's perspective, which I completely understand that. But there's another perspective, and that's Anthony Davis. Well, how should AD feel about the Lakers? I think AD's got mixed emotions about the Lakers. About 3 weeks ago or so, whenever it was, Lakers were playing the Mavs. I remember, and remember, AD was out still. And the game was in LA. Brad Turner of the LA Times came on the show, and we were talking, and he, a couple days prior, got a chance to have a conversation with Anthony Davis and got some quotes in there that were interesting. I think there's always been, I think AD is like, all right, they keep saying nobody knew about it. Doesn't sound like he believes that. He's trying to make the best of, obviously, his situation, his opportunity. He knows Kyrie is out, so a chance to compete for a championship is not there. Even them just getting out of the play-in is not a lock, and then we'll see what happens. They'd have OKC in the first round. But he's got to have some mixed emotions and feelings coming in tomorrow's game. He's got to feel a certain way about the front office and the organization. And I'm not telling you that he has to understand it or like it. The Lakers had to do what the Lakers had to do, period. And there's really no other option when it comes to the Lakers and, moving on from Anthony Davis, grabbing a 25, now 26-year-old, an opportunity for an international star that will rip the keys out of whoever thinks the franchise is and say, no, this is my franchise. That's just kind of who he is. And Anthony Davis, that really wasn't him. But he's got a lot to play for tomorrow. I definitely think there's going to be some emotions from him. You've been covering Anthony Davis, and I'm sure, relationships-wise, being around these players a lot, shock factor of him. If anybody would have told him going into February he's not going to finish the season with the Lakers, he'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? How do you think AD feels, or what do you think his emotions are towards the Lakers or the front office or the organization? Because I think we're all so shifted on, we're all so set talking about Luka and how he feels and what that game is to him tomorrow. Just, I know it's an opinion here. What do you make of Anthony Davis's side of things?
Yeah, I think he has emotions, despite him claiming otherwise. And I get why he said what he said. I probably would have said the same thing or something similar if I was in his situation. I think with AD, I'm sure there was some level of disappointment. I think it was also at a weird time because he was injured too. So he wasn't playing. He wasn't doing media availabilities. So we kind of got a delayed reaction from him with the trade, right? Like it feels like there's been a couple more pieces over the past couple weeks giving us more insight into how AD feels. And he's very much taken a professional approach of just like, I've moved on. I got traded to Dallas. I'm looking for a house. I'm focused on my kids and school and my wife and getting situated. I will say, like, I know from the fire situation, like that was a scary situation for him. That was 3 weeks before he ended up getting traded, and just having to evacuate and his kids go through that process, and they had several family friends that had their homes burned down, and that was a bit of an emotional and like traumatic process for him and his family. So I think kind of the emotions of that, and then he gets injured, and then he gets traded immediately. I mean, I think AD is self-aware enough and smart enough to know that like the Lakers had to make this trade, that this was just not a trade that they could have passed down. And in some ways it could be a point of pride for him that like he got traded for Luka. I know in some ways it's like an AD diss when people say like this is the worst trade in
Sure.
like it's a backhanded criticism of AD, but like at the end of the day he got traded for a superstar not yet in their prime, who like many people consider a generational talent. So I think that like AD was the prize in that trade for Dallas, not the pick, not Max Christie. Like it was AD. So I think I'll say this. I think his feelings could change a bit, regardless of what they are right now. They could change a bit once he gets that next contract and he sees the state taxes taken out of it, and he sees he's making a little bit more money than he would have in California. I guess that could be the one silver lining for him.
All right, thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.